welcome.
Thank you.
To another Reddit story episode. We have a good episode ahead, I reckon. Good conversations. Following on from some resources we referred to before, the Four Horsemen.
Go check out that episode, which is episode...
I think it's number 4, but I might be wrong.
Nice.
It's one of our early ones. The Four Horsemen is a relationship communication style framework by the Gottman Institute, and it talks about the 4 things that might indicate that your relationship is in a rough place. 4 ways of communicating that might be big red flags. So did the episode summarizing that all. Then we've also done a Reddit story episode on stonewalling called Is It Stonewalling? ?
And we have a lot of feedback on that episode too, by the way. People keep writing in and being like, wow, I've realized that is me. Yeah. I do that. So that was really, really cool. Yeah,
super interesting to see the feedback on that. And today we actually have a listener write in reflecting on that. So that's pretty cool. And that's going to lead us into this topic, which is the Contempt Horsemen, which is a rough one. I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay.
Before we dive into that, though, I just want a disclaimer. I am sick, as you can hear by my very sexy voice.
You're not sick. You're just...
I am sick?
Under the weather.
Yes.
I'm trying to say that you're not sick over it. That's all right. I got it.
All it came across as is you trying to gaslight me into not thinking I'm actually sick.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
I was trying to make a good joke.
It was a great joke.
Thank you.
But I am sick. I'm recovering, but my voice is croaky, so apologies for that. And you might hear some and cutouts for me to go in the background. I'm sick.
I got the black lung
paw. Anyway, but welcome. We're also going to dive right in. If you listened to episode 20, our big 2-0, you would have heard a new segment that we introduced called Tea Chat. Every time we say it doesn't sound fully right, but we're going to go with Tea Chat.
Tea Chat. Tea time.
Tea time, tea chat.
Tea time.
Maybe tea time is better.
Yeah.
And we're just going to catch up over tea.
Oh, we didn't plan that. We didn't even plan it.
Also, if you're watching videos, which you should always check out the videos on YouTube, please, thank you.
And like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. We always have some of our favorite mugs in use, actually. Blair's referred to his favorite one on here many times, although that is on its last legs. Unfortunately, that's a Mandalorian mug. Right now, he has one of his other favorite mugs that I got him.
Dunder Mifflin.
Maybe I should say one of my favorite mugs. Dunder Mifflin, World's Best Boss. If you know, you know. And my mug today looks like one you wouldn't say is your favorite mug, but it's a very special one.
It's a very special one.
Because my daughter made it for me for Mother's Day.
And then you put it in the dishwasher.
Well, no one told me not to. It literally says on the bottom that it's dishwasher safe.
Yeah, but she drew on it.
I knew she drew on it. I was aware of that. I didn't think it was going to come off.
Throw it away.
No, I didn't think it was going to come off. I didn't think I've got too many other things on my mental load.
Like what?
So when I was loading the dishwasher, I popped it in there and then half the drawings came off, but it's still a special.
Yeah.
And she hasn't noticed, so that's all
that's
really
the main
matters.
thing.
Yeah. So yeah, always make sure to peep our tea cups, mugs going on.
Check them out.
They're super exciting, so hop on over to YouTube for that. Let's dive into tea time. You won't know this, but I added sound effects to tea time.
I do know this because I checked out last week's episode.
Oh, you listened?
Yeah.
Did you like the sound effects?
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, little ding, 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 ding.
Ding, ding. There was all artificial sound effects.
No, it wasn't. It was real.
That's what I mean.
Anyway, let's tea chat.
Let's tea chat.
All right, baby.
How are you out of 10?
I reckon I'm between a 7 and an 8. Yeah, physically in that range, and also mentally just a bit tired, but not bad. Yeah. And what about you?
I am also between a 7 and an 8. And I was thinking about this before. You know, as you know, obviously, I had last week off because I knew that we're going into busy season with work. We've got new contracts, we've got reports, we've got a lot of things happening, and I'm overseeing quite a lot with work. So had the break. That was good. That was nice. I really enjoyed that time. Coming back to work it's busy. I was expecting it to be busy, and it is busy. So I am doing well. But I could be overwhelmed. Yeah. So I'm like choosing a 7 and an 8, and it's not a fake choosing of it. I'm choosing to see the positives out of it. I knew we were going to get into busy season. and we're in it. So the workload, it's school holidays, so the kids are at home and I'm trying to work, and then Bonnie chews stuff up, or she digs these massive holes, or brings mud in the house or whatever. It's just another thing on top of that. I think my mind gets quite overwhelmed. Well, it does. I know my mind does get quite overwhelmed still amongst all that stuff. From that, something I was thinking about today as well is that while I'm in this place, I've recognized that, going back to something that you've mentioned before years ago about how you felt like you didn't take up much space in my brain. I think that happens more when my mind is so full. And there's never ever excusing this. This isn't an excuse moment. But what I've come to an awareness today is that I want to work on that more. I can very much easily fall into friend zone. I can joke around a lot more. I'm snappier more. I'm kind of shut off more. I don't feel like it's only Tuesday that we're recording this. It's only been 2 days since starting back at work for my holiday, and I'm already feeling that pressure in my mind. And so anyway, I want to get better at that. How do I do that? We've identified exercise is something that I need to do. I just haven't prioritized exercise because it's been raining. When I say exercise, I mean walks. I take Bonnie for a walk, and they've been really, really good. Getting outside, getting in the sun, stretching my legs, all that stuff has been really, really good. I haven't prioritized it because of the weather. So it's something I've been aware of. I've been aware that I have not been as present mentally as I would like to have been. I've been more snappier, and I don't feel like I have shown you the love that I want you to feel recently. That's my reflections today.
In what way do you not think you've shown me love?
Because I can't name how I have. And that's what I mean. Like, we're both been very busy right now.
Yeah.
We both get that. So it's not out of Blake, you need to do more. No, I just want to be intentional. So when I see you in the morning, I want to tell you I love you. I haven't done that. And not that I don't do it. I just want to be present is my point, even in the business. I want to be present. I want to be, I want to be able to say, this is how I showed Amy love today. Yeah. This is how I showed my kids love today. Because at the end of the day, you love me. And I don't know if I ever come from that perspective when I talk to you, when I see you, how you see me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I don't approach you with the knowledge of, man, I am the person that Amy chooses to live her life with. I just come with, that's Amy. It's my wife. Like it's in that complacency. I think, complacency is probably a better word for it. So, and that's what I want to work on. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I also really wrestle with that being like present and aware of those things too. So it's a good challenge across the board. I don't feel that from you, by the way, as in I don't feel the lack of your intentionality with that.
It's my own challenge.
Yeah.
It's a challenge that I want to give to myself.
It's a good challenge. And tough when everything is intense.
Yeah.
Which it is. Good one, baby. I was trying to think of things to bring to tea time, and it was all lighthearted, but now you've blown that out of me.
Well, you told me to have a think about it. So I thought about it.
You did really well. And to be fair, I didn't actually I was really struggling to think of what I wanted to bring anyway.
I seriously was picturing like, Blair, you need to bring something. You need to be prepared.
It's just more like,
all right, cool. What am I thinking right now?
It's almost.
So I was prepared.
I was picturing a totally different vibe. But that was a very good conversation. Very good conversation. I was just going to say that this imposter syndrome thing is so real.
Oh yeah,
it's so real, and it gets me all the time. And one thing I wrestle with a lot is why do you do what you do? And really, it comes down to if you feel like you're supposed to be doing what you're doing, just do it. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. But also, I've got absolutely nothing to say that anyone thinks anything negative. It's just my brain. And I just get in these ruts where like probably the last since it's almost every time I post an episode for a few days, I'm just low. I'm just like, oh, really? Why would anyone listen to this podcast? But I love the podcast. I love doing it, and I do see the value of it. It's just the insecurity side of it that gets me.
What lifts me up, because I 100% get those lows as well. But whenever I snap out of that is when we get like tonight reading the writings. Yeah, like, actually, because what's great is we're not experts in what we're talking about. We're just experts in our relationship, right? Because we're the ones that are in the relationship, and through that, it's impacted someone else, and that's what I love.
Amazing,
and it's not. We're not trying to be flashy. We are nothing but flashy. We are not
nothing like flashy. You mean?
There we go.
We are nothing but flashy.
Okay, some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Receiving these messages is everything to us. Like it's just so encouraging, because the person we're going to read this message from, as far as I know, we don't know them at all. I don't think we've got any connection to them. And so it's just like mind-boggling.
Just the conversations from our chatters as well on Patreon.
So cool.
The ongoing stuff, but even the fact that they're inputting into the conversations as well with each other. So it's beyond us, which is what I love. So.
And the only thing I ever want genuinely from these episodes is not for people to be like, oh my gosh, have you heard Amy and Blair's podcast? Oh, they're so good. I love their podcast. They're so good. They're so good. Like, I have no interest in that being what listeners talk about the podcast to other people. What I would love, and what we get feedback on, is when we hear people have heard the podcast, it started a conversation for them, and then they've had that conversation with their partner or a friend, or they've been like, actually, I was just learning about stonewalling and blah, blah, blah. And when it's the impact of it is so much more than just the words that we're saying or who we are. So yeah, the feedback is amazing and so helpful.
And that's the thing, is we're really trying to grow. We're hopefully going to get some sponsors and so forth in the future, so we can have more capacity, more people on Patreon. Shout out to our chatters.
Thank you.
And other opportunities for us to get some more support in this area, so you have more time to put into this, because capacity is a big issue at the moment.
One final little kind of tea chat time thing is that this week, actually, very excitingly, our show started to be aired on a local radio station 2 nights a week. Really exciting. So that's a nice kind of expansion of the Honey We Need to Chat. We'll make a post with more details on that, because it won't be relevant to most of our listeners, but really exciting that that's come to pass. He's laughing because I just stopped to go but a lot more than that. Anyway,
you're making me cough now. It's like a sympathy cough.
Anyway, good tea chat.
I feel it in my throat every time you cough.
It's a bad cough. It's not a good one. It's such a yummy tea, though. Did you do something to it?
Love.
All right. So let's dive on into the world of contempt.
Honey, we need to chat.
First, I'm going to open with this listener write-in that we have. So we received this listener write-in on email the other day. I found your podcast from TikTok, and I've been listening since. I love your podcast, and honestly, it's made me realize that I'm the red flag in my relationship. My partner and I started dating in December. We have been having lots of fights. Most of these fights happened because I had a hard time talking about my feelings. I suck at talking about my feelings, but my face is very expressive, and it's clear when I'm upset. He will not leave the issue alone until it's resolved. There have been nights where we have been up until 6 a.m. because I rarely respond, and he sits there patiently waiting for me to say something. This got so bad that he started to yell at me. I couldn't take it anymore. Not only was I struggling to figure out what to say, but now there was this pressure. It was extremely overwhelming for me, to say the least, and the yelling made it even harder for me to respond in the way he wanted me to. During the moments where I'm quiet, I don't mean to be. I generally didn't know what to say. I've asked if we could take a break, and he stopped allowing it because from past experiences, I took that as a time to escape and not readdress the issue. Before I stumbled upon your podcast, I didn't know what my behavior was. I just thought that I found my boyfriend intimidating and was afraid to talk. One time, I told him that I was scared to talk, and I told him it's because of the yelling. He pointed out to me that he doesn't get like that until I start staying quiet, and he's so frustrated at that point. Sigh. He's right. After looking back on it, he doesn't raise his voice until he's at that point. He genuinely just wants to talk about something and come to an understanding. But I always saw that as him attacking my character or scolding me, Because of that, I got super defensive whenever I did say something. One day, I had an aha moment. I told myself that I'm not going to let those late nights happen again, and I need to do something about my quiet moments. I randomly decided to talk about the sequence of events that occurred, just focusing on the facts of what happened. No feelings involved. While I'm telling him my point of view of what happened, I start to understand where my feelings flare up and why I have become so upset. At the same time, he is clarifying to me why he did certain things and what his intentions were. 99% of the time, I just misunderstood his intentions, and I was basically just internalizing issues that did not exist. I'm doing my best to work on my communication. The whole thing was an eye-opener to me how severely I lacked communication. I know now that I get defensive, I stonewall, and our issues stem from my terrible communication. I'm so happy to have stumbled upon your podcast. It's helping me grow and resolve my own issues. I love you guys, and thank you so much for all that you do.
Oh, man, that is so
cool.
Amazing. That I love that. Like, that's not even just a matter of, oh, there's so much, man. Like, it's not even just a matter of like, hey, you guys have got a good podcast. Again, what you were talking about, what really pumps us up is when people hear that and then reflect on themselves. Yeah. It's not even just a matter of like, oh, my partner's this. Yeah. It's like, no, this is me. Because I think that's the first part. The first step is for us to identify where are the areas that we struggle with and then do something about that. We start with ourselves. And so this has just been so encouraging to hear. I'm all warm and fuzzy on the inside from hearing that. Yeah. It's just so special and it's just encouraged me so much. So thank you so much for hearing, for following and just sharing that back with us. It's absolutely amazing. I love that.
And thank you for being brave enough to make those changes and recognize your part of the dynamics in the relationship. Because we're so quick to accuse and, like you said, jump to being like, my partner does this, pointing the finger, and just like making it all defensive. And that it just doesn't get anywhere. Even if there's always stuff on both sides. But regardless, like working on yourself is so impactful and so important. So being able to take those steps and like humbly recognizing, okay, actually I've been really doing something, in this case, stonewalling, and that's damaging the relationship is huge, huge and encouraging, especially for a new relationship. Like that's an amazing foundation to build to be able to work on that stuff together. Good job.
Wow. Such a great way to start this episode. I love that so much.
So that came from the stonewalling concept, which is one of the four horsemen, which leads us on to another four horsemen framework.
that was my...
You've been wanting to do that.
I really have.
Contempt. And I'm going to be honest, I did not want to do contempt. I've put it off a little bit because it's a really yucky one. It's one that I knew that when I dived into the Reddit stories, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually going to really struggle to find any that we will even be able to discuss because they're just going to be so bleak. But I did research and look into some, and I actually found some that I think would be really, really good conversation. And one really important key is that if this is a part of your relationship and your communication dynamic, it's not, oh, that's what it is, it's done. It's not. And they talk about this a lot on the Gottman Institute. They talk about this a lot on like all these resources that I found. It is not the end. It's just a big red flag that you need to navigate. But there's absolutely things that can be done to help and to reinforce and strengthen and that kind of thing. So that gave me a little bit of like, I'm like, yes, cool. You're right. That's right. That's right. It's not the end. It's not bleak. It feels bleak and painful, but it's not. So hopefully these stories can spark some kind of conversation for some of you. So before we dive into these Reddit stories, I thought I would just quickly summarize for anybody who needs a refresher what contempt is. So again, it's a Gottman Institute framework. So have a look on their resources as well. Listen to our other episode to get a bit of a bigger view. I'm struggling tonight to talk, guys. I'm not going to even show you how many times it took me to read that story. Full credit to the Gottman Institute. Yeah, I'm going to link it in the show notes as well because that's exactly where it comes from, and I'm not even going to beat around the bush with that. So it says, why contempt is so destructive and dangerous. Contempt is fueled by long simmering negative thoughts about one's partner, and it arises in the form of an attack on someone's sense of self. Inevitably, contempt leads to more conflict, particularly dangerous and destructive forms of conflict, rather than to reconciliation. It's virtually impossible to resolve a problem when your partner is getting the message that you are disgusted with them and that you're condescending and acting as their superior. Fortunately, like all the four horsemen, there is an effective antidote to contempt, and it comes in two forms. So these are the things that you can treat contempt with. Basically, they're saying short-term, long-term ways to treat contempt. Short-term, break down how you're feeling, what you're needing, and make it about your experience rather than pointing the finger at your partner when you're communicating. Long-term, you need to bring back admiration and positivity into your relationship, because when you're in contempt, it's very hard to identify positive things about your partner or positive things about your relationship. If you're struggling to see those positives, it's a good sign that, you might be pretty stuck in this contempt space where you've kind of moved into bitterness almost, and you're unable to identify those positives. So putting small things in place to bring back in those positives in the admiration for your partner can be really big. And something that I've found helpful in the past is literally writing a list of things that you appreciate about your partner and always strengthening that just for yourself. And even like in our lives, like there's times where, kind of like you said in our tea chat, where it's like, we're so busy, we're so overwhelmed, we're so tired and burnt out, and there's so much on our plates, and there's just not enough time to like sit and appreciate your partner. It's actually funny that you said that at the beginning of the episode without knowing what was coming up, because it's sort of the same thing, like being intentional about appreciating who the people are around you. And if you're in a negative culture in your relationship, it can be really hard to bring that in. It would almost feel like, I've said this, I think, like turning a really big ship. It's like almost like pulling the ship around, and it's going to be slow, and it's going to be bit by bit and a lot of effort, but it would slowly get faster and better, and then you're on the right track, and it's worth it. So it's not lost. It's just it's almost like a muscle that you just have to start to bring back in. And if it's an area that's been a weakness for you guys, it's probably atrophied over time. It's probably gotten weaker. Maybe that neural pathway is not very strong, and it's just something you need to rebuild. So those are the ways that they suggest going about it. So when I was reading these stories, I realized as well, I was feeling pretty like about contempt. There is such a spectrum of contempt, and I would fall into some of these categories of contempt at times, hopefully not always. So it could be as small as mockery or eye rolling that comes up later on, all the way up to just disgust, like outward, full on disdain, can't say a positive thing. So it's a slippery slope, and it's a spectrum. And I think people would be surprised by how much could fall into the category of contempt. So just keep that in mind as we dive. So that was helpful, because I think there's actually a big conversation around that. It's not just these crazy, crazy stories of intense stuff. It's actually a very wide varying thing. And if you can catch it when it's a more mild thing, amazing. If you don't catch it, like they said in their thing, it's really hard to turn. Contempt will almost always continue to develop and turn into a really toxic dynamic.
Well, Amy's giving me the iPad and responsibility. This is amazing. So I'm going to be reading the story. Guilt is making me, male 28, feel contempt towards my partner, female 26. How was that?
Great.
Yes. No contempt from you.
Yet.
I did something terrible and hurt my partner very badly, emotionally, about 6 months ago. We've been together a couple of years. I feel immense guilt and likely will for the rest of my life. She has forgiven me, but I haven't forgiven myself. This is already... I feel this. The problem is that with my self-loathing actually manifests in part with the feeling of contempt towards my partner. Looking at her reminds me of the worst thing I've ever done. Every day I wake up next to her and immediately am flooded with overwhelming guilt and self-hatred. I think subconsciously this has morphed into resentment towards my partner for making me feel this way. I find myself extremely short with her and easily annoyed, as if my brain now associates her with negative feelings, even though I am the one who has caused all this. I love this woman so much. I want to be the best partner I can for her. When I think about her when we're apart, I'm head over heels. But when we're together, I feel inescapable self-loathing, and it's terrible. But I just want her to go away to make it stop. We had a perfect relationship before I messed it all up. I really don't know what's going on or what to do. I desperately need guidance. I'm sure it will be asked. I am in therapy. So, in summary, being with my partner is a constant reminder of the worst I've ever hurt someone, and it manifests unfairly towards my partner. That's full on. I don't relate to the rest of it, but the start off was, when you know of things that you've done and how I think I shared this with you a little while ago. I still get flashbacks of things that I've done as a teenager or a young adult or something, and I just hits me with guilt and just those things like, oh man, did I really do that, or did I really say that, or whatever else?
Yeah. Well, the reason I included this story was we love to look at what sits behind people's actions, and you don't just fall into contempt. It's not just something that happens. There's a lot of reasons it would be happening. And I think one of the reasons is that the person themselves is not happy with themselves.
Yeah.
And it could be this kind of projected bitterness that you end up, like he's just described, kind of putting onto your partner. And I think that's a really real dynamic.
Yeah. What came to my mind, I'm reading this book at the moment, and I don't think I'll recommend it. So I'm not going to say what it is. But essentially what it's talking about in the first part is about how we live in a world where everyone's got a disease, right? We're very much aware of our disease and we're very much aware of other people's diseases. So what we do is we either put up defense mechanisms so we don't catch other people's diseases, or so we don't give them ours. And in that space we can be triggered or react in specific ways. So I kind of see this reacting out in here. He's very much aware of his disease at the moment, and it's like this sickness that he has, and he can't shake it. He can't get it under control because it's guilt, but I feel like it would be also the fear of doing it again, of passing on his disease again, so just very much aware of his stuff that's causing that towards him too. I feel like it's driven by fear and guilt for sure, but I reckon there's a fear element there.
Yeah. It was interesting. I actually read the comments on a few of these, which I don't normally do when I'm collecting the stories, because a lot of the time it doesn't mean too much, and sometimes it messes up how I read the story. So I'm kind of annoyed, but I did it anyway. Someone in the comments said, do you think a part of you subconsciously is almost disgusted at her for staying with you?
Oh.
And he's like, actually, I think that is part of it, which was really interesting.
In my head, I'm like, I just want to know what he did, because it's going to help so much more.
But I think our imaginations probably could touch on it.
Yeah.
It sounds like,
we don't get there.
But again, when your brain is a tricky little thing, and so he could have done something really bad. It sounds like it wasn't a great thing. But also, I also am super aware that your brain can really mess you up in terms of making it feel like the worst thing ever. Like the way he writes about it is really bad.
Yeah.
Like it's the worst thing ever, and I can't imagine ever, all this stuff. Like it could have been something that's not as bad as he's kind of built it in his head to be. And if there's guilt and shame going on, that's a recipe for making something feel a lot heavier. She's with him still. She loves him and she's forgiven him. So yeah, it's a classic not being able to forgive yourself and then having that impact how you react to the world around you and the people around you. Really good that he's in therapy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would have been my response, would have been like, I think you need extra help with this.
Yeah.
What would I do if I was in his situation? And I haven't been in this situation, just to be clear. I don't hold you at contempt. But you don't make me feel sick when I wake up next to you.
Great. Good to know.
Yeah, so you know. But I feel that I've definitely felt the guilt side of things. And that's been quite controlling over my situation from time to time with my mental health, whatever. That would be something. So guilt, one guilt that I have that I constantly wrestle with is during my burnout, and how much that impacted you, or when we first got married and I was struggling with pornography and how much that affected our marriage and so forth. And these are guilts that I still wrestle with today. I feel like this has definitely been amplified in our trip in New Zealand as well. It's helping me to write it down. I've written something down and sat with that a lot more. It's lost a lot more of its power because it's out of me now, if that makes sense. So writing stuff down has been really, really helpful of what is it that I'm actually feeling. So what is the guilt coming from? And the guilt has been the baggage that I've put onto you and the family, the way that I reacted. I had a lot of anger issues back then. The way that I was responding to the kids. I was, like I mentioned earlier in this episode, I've been struggling with being overwhelmed and a brain full. Today, I did not react like I did when I was in my burnout. Like I reacted a lot worse back then. So writing those things down and helping me understand what is actually going on, well, what I'm feeling in those moments, because if I don't unpack it, it's an all-consuming thing, right? It's this huge bubble of guilt. But if I can break it down of like, what am I actually guilty of? And then break it down, well, how in that scenario now, am I that? Because in my mind, I was a burden on my family. Am I that burden now? No, I'm not. You know what I mean? So why am I still holding on to stuff? And then it's that choice of having to let it go. That choice is a constant choice. Yeah. It's not a once-off choice. It's something that I have to wrestle with regularly. And I do that with people as well. You know, I do that with my friends. I do that with you. It's just like, I'm struggling with this. You know, I'm feeling low today or whatever else. I think what he's done is good. I don't know if I would come to you if I was him and say, you know, how I feel about you in this situation. I don't know. I feel like we've got a very open communication, but that'd be a tough one. That'd be a tough one to actually talk to you about.
Yeah, I think it would depend how you approach it, because I think there is a conversation that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like, well, she's going to recognize his attitude, whether he's thinking he's hiding it from her or not. And there's been times where you, like you've just said, you've wrestled with something you've done and you're not being mean or anything like that, but it still impacts how you interact with our family or with me. And so then I'm like, you're wrestling with the thing you've done, and I'm also feeling isolated because you're not engaging with me.
Yeah.
And like, you weren't intending to. I know that you probably aren't intending at all to project that, and he would be the same as well. He wouldn't be intending to project this intense emotion he's navigating, but she's going to notice that.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't communicate it with her.
You said something in the last episode, if we don't, or it might have been the Frumpy episode, whatever, I can't remember the title, Dumpy episode.
Yeah.
You said when we don't communicate, we are still communicating. And it's a very loud conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that when you said that, and I actually listened to that episode again, I'm like, that was really good.
Yeah.
That was a very good point. If we're not communicating verbally, we're still communicating, and it's a very loud conversation.
Very loud conversation. Yeah. So she'll be aware of that. And so I do think there needs to be conversation. I don't think he needs to come out and say, you make me sick.
No.
Because that's just a whole thing.
No.
Like the whole insecurities episode.
Yeah.
There are ways to say things without saying that, purely because he even recognizes it's not her making him sick. It's what he's done that's reacting this way. I think you could step through it. Like, if this was me, I think I'd be like, I know I'm probably acting a bit weird. You might have noticed that I'm like a bit off. And I just wanted to let you know I'm aware of it. I'm really sorry. I'm trying to work on it. And that's what I'm talking about with therapy. But it's not fair on you. And I'm so aware of that.
Yeah.
So just almost like putting that disclaimer out there so she knows that he's aware and he's doing something about it.
Yeah.
Without having to go into the detail, maybe.
Do you feel it's okay? Because if she started pressing in more to that, in terms of what do you struggle about, I still wouldn't feel comfortable in coming and saying to you, you make me sick.
Yeah.
Would you think it's okay to say, I'm not ready to unpack, I'm still trying to understand that, so I don't want to unpack that now?
It would be, but I would really struggle with that. But I think if that was me and my partner was pressing me for an answer, I would just say, every time I'm engaging with you, the guilt of what I've done is just all I can see. It's like a filter over you. And so I find myself almost like avoiding this engagement. I find myself stressed and anxious and not present and not enjoying it. And that's what I'm really navigating, because it's not fair on you. It's not you I'm seeing. It's this filter that I'm seeing from my guilt. So I wouldn't say, anything like
It's
looking
like
at
my
you makes
guilt
me
is
sick.
getting between you and me, and I am trying to
Exactly.
remove that screen of guilt so I can see you through who you are.
And the benefit of this conversation is he knows what's happened to make that.
Yeah.
Someone else could be navigating this exact situation and be like, why does looking at my partner make me feel sick? Like, I just feel sick. And not have either the self-awareness or have had that moment where they're like, oh, that's what it is. And that would be tough. That would be more of like, I don't really know how to say I still would never say that you make me sick. Even if it was the end of your relationship and you weren't going anywhere, don't say that to people.
Yeah.
Far out.
It's funny that you have to say that,
I
though,
know.
because the amount of stories that we read where people just use dumb words is quite a lot.
Someone said, I think one of our kids today, I can't remember who it was or in what context, but they have been fighting 24/7. I was like, guys, you are each other's brothers and sister. You need to love each other. Like, you are each other's best friends. You need to love each other more than anyone else. And then our oldest goes, we're supposed to love God more than anyone else. And I was like, yes. And what would God be asking you to do? And he's like, to love each other and to treat each other how we want to be treated. And I was like, yes. So think about that.
Yeah.
When you go to say something to someone, think about how you would want to receive that information and let that be just a split second of thought and a little filter before you do it, because the damage you can cause from words.
Yeah, I would still be careful in saying that, because there's going to be a lot of guys that hear you say that. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't mind if they said, they just want the truth. You know what I mean? The way that guys, you can't give guys permission to speak the way that they would want to be spoken to, because we don't
you
get
would just be blunt.
Well, we don't get impacted by specific words that females will.
Generally speaking.
So that's where you don't want to give that permission.
As a rule of thumb,
don't say silly things.
But yeah, I do think a conversation needs to happen here, because she's going to be aware. And if he doesn't clarify, that will just like strengthen that divide. The other thing we've spoken about before is how hurt people. And so he is hurt, and he is not hurt by her in this situation.
But his hurt is still hurting her.
His hurt is going to hurt her, and then hurt people. So she may start putting her defenses up and reacting out of that too, which just becomes a cycle that's like back and forth. And then unpicking all of those layers is really tough. That's why if he can communicate it now to make it clear, oh, it's not you, and I know it's not you, and I'm aware of that, that might help her before she's pulling up these walls that will then become another hurt, just perpetuating that cycle. So,
and teamwork is so important in this space, and that's where the communication has to happen within the teamwork, because, you know, again, with our listener write-in before, it was that acknowledgement of their own stuff, but then it's a matter of going to our partners and going on that journey together. We don't want to dump it on our partners. We still need responsibility. We still need to identify what we've done. But honestly, the amount of growth that I've been through in our relationship, you inputting into my struggles and my wrestles, and us doing that together. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I feel like a lot of the times we don't know how to communicate, so we won't communicate. I think it's a matter of at least expressing the desire to communicate and what you're actually wanting out of the end of it, especially these tricky situations. And it can be a very painful and hurtful thing to work through. Start baby steps. You know, just state what you're wanting at the end of it. Where are you wanting to be? 5 years time. We keep saying that. 5 years time. Where do you want to be in your relationship? And start with the communication. You're going to be messy. You're going to struggle. It's not going to be clear. It's not going to be concise. You're still figuring stuff out. That's fine. Give each other permission to do that. Help each other remember what the goal is. So just want to encourage you guys, if you're hearing these stories, I really want to bring the hope out of that as well. There is hope. It needs your commitment to it. It needs your reflection upon your own stuff, your responsibility for your own stuff, and commitment to the conversation going forward.
Also, the development you do for yourself is about everything else. It's about them. It's about you. It's about your future. It's about your family. It's about how you interact with the people at work, interact with the people on the street. It's about everything. So it's not just about how you are for them. It's about how you are. And that's really important work regardless of where your partner's at.
Hey guys, just wanted to pop in and take a sec to talk about the extra content you can find over on our Patreon and our Spotify subscription. We have a fun little community growing over there with extra episodes, extra stories. We're also going to have resources, messages back and forth, and also submitting listener stories through that portal as well. So
also outro themes.
If you want to be a part of our closer knit community here at Honey We Need a Chat, please hop on over to Patreon or Spotify subscriptions and join us there. We would love to see you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Okay, so I found one that I thought you might resonate with, which is what you just read, slightly.
Okay.
Then I found one that I resonate with.
Oh.
Because equal, you know?
Same, but different.
My 42 male wife, 35 female of 15 years denies eye rolling is disrespectful.
Oh, the triggers have been triggered.
I just wanted to get your feedback on a reoccurring argument I have with my wife and wanted to know if there's something I'm missing on the subject of eye rolling. It happens quite often in our marriage of 15 years where I'll say something my wife doesn't like and she'll roll her eyes. The most recent time was earlier today when I was talking to my son that during his quiet time, Daddy was going to take a hard-earned nap. I then looked to my wife and said, that means no TV or lights on in the room, please. She then rolled her eyes. I called her out on it, saying I need quiet rest. She can go downstairs to the guest room or watch TV in the lounge room, and that it's disrespectful for her to roll her eyes at me. She first said she didn't roll her eyes, she just looked up in exasperation. Then later on during the argument, she starts to say that for her, rolling her eyes means she's exhausted or in disagreement with me. I asked her to get 10 people to agree with her that eye rolling is not a sign of disrespect or contempt. And then she says, I'm closed-minded, hard-hearted, and can't accept anyone else's point of view but my own. What do you think? It's really frustrating trying to get my point across, especially when I truly believe most people would agree with me. Am I closed-minded on the issue of eye roll and the nonverbal message it sends to the other person? Edit. I struggle with codependent issues, and my wife has untreated ADD and possibly bipolar. I realize that I need to be better with communication. I just want feedback on if eye rolling is usually seen as disrespectful. I will try to get my wife to go to couples counseling. Edit 2. The nap is in my own bedroom, people. I've requested she listens to TV in the guest room or our living room on many occasions, and she often flat out refuses. Too bad, deal with it. I try to get one nap a day, 20 to 30 minutes. I do most of the chores and am responsible for a majority of the household responsibilities. She does not work. So this person's added edits after comments that came in. Eye rolling is something that we've talked about. And it's an interesting one because when it's happened, so it's me that eye rolls. I am the eye roller.
Yeah, you have
eye rolled.
Yeah.
When it happens, I don't know that I've done it. It's not like I'm like, ugh. It's more just like, so I get when she said it's looking up in exasperation. I was like,
that to me sounds like, I didn't kick you. I stretched my leg in your direction. Like, that's what it sounds
so
like. No, I know. I thought about it when you read it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You were prepared.
I was trying to think of like, what's that sound?
I know it's the same thing. As in, I know it's still not respectful, but it's not the same thing from the doer perspective. Me being like, oh my gosh, is not the same thing as. To me, it's different. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing. Could you see what I was doing just then?
Yeah, you're right next to me. No, yes, that might be what you feel like you were doing, but what you did then is not what you've done.
Mm-hmm. What have I done?
I rolled. Like,
really?
Yeah.
So I don't see it.
And like, I genuinely only have 2 instances that you've done it.
Mm-hmm. And both instances, well, I don't remember the first instance. I just remember at the burger place.
Yeah, there's one before that.
Yeah. Both, the one I remember, I was frustrated. It wasn't that I wasn't frustrated, but it was interesting because we had a conversation after it because you said, I can't remember how you brought it up very gently, but you were just like, I
think it was that I don't feel like you're on my side when you eye roll. And it was more about, look, it's okay if you don't agree with me, but we do that through conversation, not through you getting frustrated and just rolling your eyes at me.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't feel like we're in it together, like whatever the situation was. I can't remember. I think it was I was getting frustrated at the kids or something.
Something about dinner.
Yeah. It wasn't anything massive. But again, we tackle those things together. When you just eye roll, well, that's me on. It makes me feel very cold, like I'm separated. Like it's like, you're doing this, don't do it.
Yeah. And it's hard. So when we had this conversation, I was like, I am frustrated at you. And it's not, I struggle, and I've said this many times, I struggle to say when I'm frustrated because I have a lot of stuff going on for that. But I'm not someone who usually am just like, da-da-da-da-da when I'm frustrated. Like I try to hold it in, which is sometimes okay. And sometimes it's not a good thing.
It's okay when you need to take that time to take a breath and process it so you can deliver it in an uplifting way.
Exactly.
It's not okay if you don't deliver it.
Which is where I fall into the category of just never delivering it.
Stonewalling.
Yeah, essentially. And like I'll talk, but it's really complicated because I'll talk. I'll bring things up that I need to talk about. But there's like little things. It's like the little things that aren't huge, but they build. And that's what contempt is. It's little things that are built into big things. And there's little things that sometimes I'm like, and actually this instance, I remember being like, I have actually said this to you a few times and you're still doing it. And so I was frustrated at you. And so my eye roll reaction or my physical reaction is this wrestle in me, like, don't snap at him. Don't be like, meh, meh, meh. But it's also like, I am frustrated.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just going to be like, And so it's hard. It's really hard. It's not, and because it's not a conscious thing. I don't know if some people do it consciously. I'm sure some people do, but it's not a conscious thing for me. And I don't know for this lady if it is or not, but it's not something that I even am aware of when I'm doing it.
Yeah. So I think, so rolling out a scenario, because I kind of see it in this story here too, right? There's no real communication on her part. Like she's communicating through the eye rolls. So for us, right, you rolled your eyes because of something that you've brought up a few times. And that was the conversation that we had on the night was, and so with you just eye rolling, I don't feel like you're a part of my team because what I need to do, yes, you've brought it up a couple of times, but now I need to break the habit because it was about the way that I responded. So I respond to the kids with like, ultimatums or something, whatever it was. It's like, you've done this, you don't get this. It was like instant,
without a warning.
Without
that's
a
right.
warning and stuff, right? And I have now built this as part of my habit. I'm not trying to be mean to my kids. I'm just like, this is the consequence for your actions, but there's no warning involved, right? So I'm very quick and snappy to the consequence. And so now I need you've brought it to my attention, and I love that you brought it to my attention because I don't want to do that. So with you just rolling your eyes, I then go into guess mode, like, what are you actually rolling your eyes over? Because in the moment, I can't remember. I didn't remember that you brought that up to me because I'm still in my habit. I've got to break this habit, and I want you on my team to help me break that habit. You know I don't want to do that, so help me. I have to take responsibility for it, like we keep saying. And I see that here too. Like it's even just the way that this story's got a lot more than just the eye roll in it. It feels like there's a high level of pride and stubbornness in this conversation.
On both sides, or on which side?
Well, we only hear from one side. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not going to rule out both sides, but we only hear from one side. So just in terms of when he mentions the eye roll, like I refuse to hear anyone else's point of view. Like this is like, so I'm going to eye roll because it's a non-issue for me. That's not healthy. That's not a healthy thing. Or just deal with it is never a healthy response in my opinion. I just don't feel like if you spoke to me like that, like I would be so frustrated, and because again, it wouldn't necessarily even be this matter of that you said just deal with it. It'd be
why? I just would never say
where's
that.
the team in that? Like I would actually feel like a little bit disconnected from you. Like we're meant to be on the same side here. Sometimes I drop the ball, sometimes you drop the ball, but at the end of the day, we're still on the same team. So why are we talking to each other like that? But yeah.
So funny because I read the story really differently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not the eye roll thing. And it was interesting. Again, read the comments. I shouldn't have necessarily done that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting seeing what they brought out too, because obviously his story is going to have his perspective and probably have him in a better light than maybe her story would. But the way he talks to her made me think so many things stood out to me that I was like, this could be a big factor for her. So he's like talking to his kid and he said, Daddy's going to have a hard-earned nap. And that means no TV lights in the room, please. So I read that as
you
like,
read it as like a
passive
to her.
aggressive.
So I didn't pick that up as a passive to the
I'm
wife.
obviously putting a tone on it that I don't know.
But I read it just completely in the conversations with the kid, and the wife was there, and she rolled the eyes over the way that he interacted with the kid.
Yeah. No, because he says, I looked at my wife and said, that means no TV.
That's very
and so people in the comments were like, yes, eye rolling is disrespectful, but also what's with the this? Because that just sounds real. That sounds how they said it sounds like how you talk to a kid.
Yeah.
Very patronizing.
Yeah.
And so obviously we have no idea. But to me, I read this like in my head, I'm like, how many times does he do this? How many times he's like, can everyone be quiet, please? I need my 20 to 30 minute nap.
Yeah.
Because daddy needs his hard-earned nap.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, in my head straight away, I'm like, mental load. I know he says he does most of the chores, which if that's true, then that's the other way around.
Yeah.
But it could be like mental load and how much has she had to deal with that day? And how is he like, daddy needs his hard-earned nap. Please, everyone be quiet.
Mm-hmm. Just so our listeners here that aren't watching, watchers, but our listeners, he's giving me a weird look every time she says that.
I realize that doesn't translate very well.
It doesn't translate.
Yeah, I'm just kind of staring at him Yeah, so it could be not that. But when I read the actual story, the full story, I was like, oh, I can see how, again, contempt. To me, it actually just sounds like contempt on both sides.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. Because, again, that's how he mentions it. I do all the cleaning, I do all this, and she doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's I'm seeing that tone come through
Even
now.
his edit where he says, I struggle with codependent issues and my wife has untreated ADD. Like, what has that got to do with the story? Maybe someone asked in the comments, I'm not sure, but yeah, very strange. And he's like, I realize I do need to be better with communication. I just wanted feedback on the eye rolling if it's disrespectful. So it just feels like there's a lot of layers here.
And what's he going to do? Is he going to take that feedback and give it to his wife?
People think it's disrespectful.
Well, this is on Reddit. And this is what they said. Yeah. You're in the wrong.
And that is why contempt is such a layered thing. It's a slow burn. They say that in the definition on the Gottman Institute. It is a slow burn. And if you find yourself, and the eye roll from me is a really good example, like, yes, I've said this to you multiple times. I'm also frustrated in this moment because in that moment, you had said some ultimatum to the kid. You'd been like, all right, you're not having a whatever because you did this thing. And now I'm like, oh, now I'm going to have to deal with this kid cracking it because they didn't get a warning for the thing. And all of a sudden Blair's put a thing out there and I'm going to support his thing because I'm supporting his ruling on things. I'm not going to be like, no, they can have it. And so then my brain's just like, and that's why I react the way that I do. But if that's unaddressed and like you called me out on it in a gentle way, and that's a super valid thing because we are a team, and those little things that do build up, if that's unaddressed and I just continue to be like rolling my eyes at you all the time in my head, that I'm like, Blair always does this. He always does this. And then I'm stuck in this horrible place. And then that turns into a bigger conversation of like, he's just so unreasonable or whatever it might end into. That builds contempt. Those are small things that build contempt. And another thing they talk about is sarcasm, mockery. But sarcasm, mockery, those small things that seep into your relationship that you don't realize and could even start from like a funny place. Yeah. And we've had this with sarcasm.
Yeah. And that's what I was talking about before. Like I'm aware that I don't show you that love because I know that this is where we can go. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like this is where I'm like, I'm aware of this now. And that's the thing is like sometimes we get some comments about like, it's not a big deal, man. Like why is that a big deal to you? It's not that each individual thing is a big deal, but it leads to stuff like this. Like when we're not aware of it, when we're just like, oh, it's fine, or we don't see the priority of investing and addressing, and we don't always just address the big topics. We're just constantly trying to better our relationship. You know, again, with that team mentality, if you're looking at sport, you're looking at every little thing because when you work on all the little things, you make the big plays, you know, and that's exactly what we're seeing here through contempt and how that builds from a small place to something bigger. Because I think that has been for us. Like, we start off with the jokiness and we still joke. It's not saying that joking can't happen. We still do that. But if the joking outweighs the love showing, that's where the issues start. I've got to a point where I've started putting you down, but we're only joking, and I'm only joking, but it's just way too far. I don't need to go that far with my wife,
Yeah.
So yeah, I can absolutely see that.
And they talk about the building of, appreciation and positivity, admiration with your partner, and that's a slow thing, right? Like you build that into the culture. The flip side of that happens too. The building of contempt in a lighthearted, joking, mockery way is you could make these jokes, and then it actually forms how you view your partner. It actually starts to become how you see them. And it's the same with admiration. If you can flip that story and you start to be focusing on those things that you really admire, focusing on those things that you love about your relationship, focusing on the positives, it starts to be what you see. What you focus on is what you get. You literally can focus and train your brain to pick up the evidence around you of what you're focusing on. If you're sitting there thinking, this is horrible, negative, bitter, whatever, broken, negative, blah, 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 that's all you're going to pick up. That's all you're going to see. That's all you're going to feel about your partner. You're not going to see the positives. Your brain will literally phase those out because you're training your brain to collect the evidence of what you're focusing on. So if you can start to flip that switch for yourself and just come at things with that admiration, I think it can transform your relationship. Shifting that culture within your relationship will impact, even if it's just for yourself and your own bitterness or lack of bitterness. So there's so many things that can be done. And one little challenge I just really want to put out there is I'm a mom. So I know the mom culture. I know the mom world. I know the reels that go around. I know the reels that I send to my friends. There is so much real, like WEAR.
W?
REAL. Oh
wow.
my gosh.
Like, wheel? What is that?
WEAR. Where?
Oh my gosh.
Don't ask me to spell things. There's so much real, as in don't even Amy. REAL. REAL. Real life is what I'm trying to say. But he's going to die in the corner.
Man.
There's reality behind the reels. Those little jokes that we see, it's a whole culture now of sending reels. I'm like, yeah, that's so true. There's reality behind it. It rings true to us to some level. That's why we share something. But those little bits of bitterness at our partners or your family dynamics or being a mom, like those little attitudes that we're reinforcing every time we're engaging with this stuff, which I do, and it's funny and it's relatable. So it's like, it also can build to a place where you're actually really in a place that you are no longer respecting, loving, cherishing your partner. You're only seeing those things. And if you are in a place where there's so many things you could list off the top of your head that your partner's doing that's irritating you, and that they just don't do enough with this, they don't care about this, they don't whatever. If you're in that place, one, take a sec to check yourself and be like, have I communicated these things that I need with that partner? Like, is there things that I'm like, actually, the reason I'm so upset is because I've got these needs that aren't being met. Have I actually said that to them? Have I actually sat them down and made it clear how serious those things are to me? Not just subtle, like passive aggressive comments, hoping they'll pick it up. Have I sat down and made that clear? Two, am I actually in a place where my jokey or lighthearted or not that serious attitude about this stuff has built into maybe some form of contempt? And if I am, where do I want to be in 5 years' time? Where do I want my marriage to be in 5 years' time? And it's hard to do. But these little things can really help. And I think a lot of us would find ourselves in this category in a way to some level without recognizing it. Unless you're able to check it, you'll just find yourself years down the track not realizing it. So just make this moment a moment where you check in.
To finish up too, we one thing I wanted to highlight was, what do you do when you're the recipient of contempt? If you're feeling like you're getting contempt towards you, it is hard to do because you can get quite defensive, but what I encourage you is just to gently go approach it, call it out in a gentle and loving way, but then spend the time of trying to understand them. Don't justify your feelings. Take that time to understand them and unpack them. Is it a trigger that they've had? There might be something that hasn't even got anything to do with you. There's a trigger, from someone else or another experience or another relationship or whatever else. The curiosity is really important when trying to approach this in a loving way. Don't go accusational, go with curiosity.
Yeah. And I think some of this stuff starts with things that the person that portrays a contempt doesn't even know how to bring up.
Yeah.
So providing that space would be helpful.
And that's where the conversation starts.
Yeah.
And, as you guys exploring them together, not necessarily actions straight up, that will come. Those conversations will come, but exploring them, being curious about them. Like what is it I'm doing? How can I help you? What, all those sorts of things that we've been talking about. Awesome. Well, that was good. That was heavy. It was relatable, but it was so important. And it's for me, I'm like, cool. I don't feel like we really struggle with contempt, but I can really see how we can get complacent and lazy with these things and checking these things. So if you don't, still want to encourage you to reflect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a look.
And if you want an extra story on contempt, hop on over to the Patreon because we're going to discuss a story. And I'll read the title for you now, just to give you a little taster. It's my 25 male marriage has been overtaken by contempt, hoping to hear from others who have been able to defeat this terrible monster and actually be happy again. So hop on over to the Patreon or Spotify subscription to catch that extra story. And we've got a lot of other extra content there too available to you guys. And we would love to see you there. But until next time.
Chattios.
Chattios.